Well, straight to our developing story now, the breaking news this afternoon. Former President Jacob Zuma will be a candidate for Umkhonto weSizwe, for their presidential candidate, and will be allowed to go into the National Assembly. This follows the Electoral Court's ruling today, setting aside the Electoral Commission's previous decision to uphold an objection disqualifying him. Newzrom Afrika's contributing political editor Vuyo Mvoko joins me now. Vuyo, good afternoon to you. Almost every legal analyst I'd spoken to said that Zuma would lose this case. I have to admit, I'm quite surprised by this decision. It may well upset the apple cart a little bit.
It will, in so many ways, and no doubt it's going to boost the former president and his party's chances, certainly, or even if it's at the level of public relations, because they have been looking for that one moment, that I think would open the floodgates, I suppose, for people to say, this indeed, in fact, this indeed is something big and something that is going to put us in good stead. If you remember back when at Tuks, in the run-up to Polokwane, the ANC's policy conference, one of the difficulties there was to get the ANC to a point where a lot of people who, or shall I say, doubting Thomases, could believe that Jacob Zuma could actually become the president of the ANC. And to do that, they needed that moment when Jacob Zuma had to, or the conference, risked, the ANC risked collapsing that conference at the University of Pretoria, because something that did not belong in the agenda at Tuks was put on the table, and it had to be discussed, which then meant, essentially meant that Jacob Zuma could win come Polokwane. This moment reminds me of that, where the Umkhonto weSizwe supporters feel that finally we've made a breakthrough, and with this breakthrough will come the possibility, they hope, to then bring in more people onto the fold and boost the chances of Jacob Zuma and MK Party having as healthy a representation they can get in Parliament as possible. It's a big moment for them, no doubt. But we're yet, of course, to hear what the reasons are. But reasons or no reasons, it does definitely boost their chances.
There's so much to all of this, because it must also put pressure on the Electoral Commission. They upheld the objection against former President Zuma. And now, and at the time, acting, they said, on legal advice. We saw the lawyers arguing yesterday. Now, they're going to look like they were in the wrong. Well, legally they were.
They will have to bite the bullet, and I'm not sure, certainly from conversations we've seen or from the little bits and pieces that commissioners and senior officials of the IEC have made. They haven't made too many comments. I'm not too sure if whether they will have the appetite to take this matter further. What looks likely is that they will just accept what the courts have to say, whatever the reasons, which are yet to be given, and just move on with the program of running an election. I don't see them doing what the former president would definitely have done in the event, the ruling had gone against him.
Of course, for the ANC, probably the ANC, probably the IFP, maybe to a smaller extent the EFF, this puts them under more pressure, doesn't it? Especially the ANC.
It does. You will recall, rumor had it when the election was announced, and a date sooner than many people thought would be the case. Rumor had it that it was, among other big reasons, was the fact that the MK Party is gaining a lot of traction. And if you give them a great deal of time to organize themselves, they will have a better showing than they would ordinarily have if you keep, the period between then, and of course the date of election as short as possible. So there's definitely going to be a panic. They obviously won't admit it. There's panic within the ANC, certainly, or in KwaZulu-Natal, and to an extent here in Gauteng. The IFP, which would have thought that it was going to make some serious inroads, building on what it did. Remember, there was an uptick. If you look at the 2019 elections, the IFP managed to claw back some of its support, and people thought that under the whole rallying cry of the IFP, that do it for Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, that they would even improve come this election. The EFF has put a great deal of effort in its KwaZulu-Natal campaign. You will have seen Floyd Shivambu, the deputy president of the party, being recalled because they didn't think that he would strike, or his message would strike a chord with the people of KwaZulu-Natal. They replaced him with someone they thought, whose voice would resonate more with the people of KwaZulu-Natal. And in spite of all that effort, you now have a Jacob Zuma going to be a big factor because, he has a great deal, of support in that province, and no doubt the outcome of this challenge has boosted his chances in no small way.
It also raises, and this would have been political fantasy to say this 6 months ago, but it also means that if Zuma becomes a member of parliament from Mkonto-Wesizwe, say they get 10%, say they get more, of him standing up and asking, presumably, President Ramaphosa questions during presidential questions. And the two love each other, don't they?
Well, it will be very interesting, but then you must remember also that for years and years, the former president kept threatening to reveal certain things, about people or about situations or about the ANC. But he has never done that. Really. So whether indeed he does have things that have yet that have still not been revealed, he would be able to stand up and do so. But what's also going to be interesting is going to be the attitude of those, or the rest of the political parties within the opposition. In other words, your EFFs, what is going to be their attitude? The IFP, what is going to be their attitude towards the former president, now that he's a potential ally, and what they could do together, if anything. All of that, of course, depended also on the ANC's support come May 29.
Vuyo Mvoko, thank you very much indeed. I'm sure your phone's exploding. Thank you for coming in, bringing that memory of yours with you. I really appreciate it. Vuyo Mvoko, of course, our associate political editor on that developing story. I should say breaking story, considering the magnitude of it.